Hey everyone, welcome to Coding Simplified, and today we'll see about classes used in Java. So we'll see that how to create a class and then how it is important in Java, right? So as we know that Java is object-oriented programming language, it means that everything here moves around objects, right? And object is a core component of Java, right? So a class basically a definition of an object, right? So whenever you create an object, it means that you are basically defining that complete class, right? So when you create an object, it means you can access the variables of object, you can access the all the method, all the definitions of that class, right? So whenever you are defining a class, it means you are basically defining a entity, right? That this is my entity, and in that entity I am defining all my variables that I will use, and these will be methods so that you can access these classes, right? So like here what I'm doing, and this is how you create a class, that you have class and here you give a name, and then you give here all your variables and all your methods, right? So normally all your variables should be private and your method should be public, so that if someone want to access from outside of the class, he can access only through the methods, not through the variables. Because let's say if your variable are public, and if someone changes the value of that variable from outside, right, so what would happen, it would basically impact all the objects whichever it's using these class variables, right? So it is always advisable that always make your variables as private and your method as public. And now later we'll see that again you can have your some of the methods as private if you don't want to expose to people, right? So it means that whatever API, whatever method you want to expose to people, you make them as a public, otherwise you make them as private, whether it is method or whether it is variables, right? So now like here what I have done, I have in this movie I have two things. I have name and category. So I'm saying that I want to define two entity, name and category. So and both are string and I make them as private. Now from outside I will set their values. So I will set their values using a function set values, and I will pass name and category, right? And for the accessing the name and category, I have again two methods, get name and get category, right? So this is how I create an object. So this is my main method, and in this what I do, I basically create an object, right? So this is a basic way of creating an object, that this is known as default parameter, that you are not giving any parameter, right? So we are saying movie a equal to new movie. So as soon as you call this new object of this movie, it will basically initialize all the instance variable by default value, right? So like default value of string is null, so name will be null and your category will be null at the starting, right? So now what happens, that now you are setting the values. So you are saying that I am setting the values of this movie, and name is matrix and category is action, right? So this matrix and action parameter will go here in this argument, and then it will assign name in n and category is c, right? So now here is a point, that when you are creating this object, so this the instance variable which are associated with this class, they will be part of this object now, right? It means that this a will have two values, this name and category, which are matrix and action, right? And again, like you can have different object again which can have different values. So now let's say I have movie of b object, and now in the b object you are setting movie name is let's say Titanic, and uh, your action, your category is drama, let's say, right? So if you will check about this a, so that will, so now for a you will get different values, and for b you will get different values, right? Because once you set the values through a function, it basically associated these values with the particular object, right? So now let me show you that how it happens basically. So like whenever you call this function new movie, it will call here, and it will create a all the instance variable, right, but with default value. Now you will call the set values function, so you will have this argument, and then it will initialize name and category, and again with the movie it will again create a new object of b, of the movie which is b. Now it will set the values with the different values, and now if you check that it what it returns, so for the A it is returning Matrix movie and the category it is returning action, but for B it is returning Titanic, and for the drama it will return, right? So this is how we create objects. So now what we have seen, that a class is, this class is basically a definition of these objects, right? So whenever you are creating an object, it is saying that these are my definitions. Now whatever you want you can use it, right? So you can have multiple objects for a particular class, right? And again, like this is a one way of setting the values. You can in fact set using a constructor as well. So like you can have a constructor here, movie constructor, and here you can define the values. So you can say string n, string c, and then here you can say name equals to n, and then category equals to c, right? So now what would happen, then we don't need these set values. So as whenever we are creating a constructor, at the same time we can set the values. So then matrix and action we can set here, right? And on this similar note, the same thing we can do with the other object as well. So as soon as you are creating an object of the class, at the same time you can give the values, so that we call as constructor, right? So these are the constructor. So later we'll see in full that what are the constructor and how many types a constructor has, right? So a class can contain variable, it can contain a constructor, it can contain a method, so that we can access the variables, right? And guys, again, like this is not necessary that it should be n, it can have the same as well. So what you can do, that if you give with the same one, then basically you need to assign it with this, right? And again we'll see in detail that what is this. So this is basically that basically you are defining, you are associating this to the particular object, right? So basically what this says, this basically refer to a to the object which is creating this one, right? So like here my object is this one, it means it will say okay, this is basically for this particular object, and I'm assigning the name, which are arguments, right? So implicitly it represents the same object which it is creating, right? So these are the basic properties of a class, and these are this is how we access a class object or class methods, right? So guys, there are so many things that we can explain in class, but for this tutorial this is enough, and we'll see more in further tutorials. So thanks for watching it, and if you have any doubt, please write in the comment section and I will try to explain that. And guys, if you have liked the video, then please like it and subscribe the channel for more such videos. Thank you.